How's it going, folks? This is Cornell from the No Such Thing podcast, and I'm here with Brent from The Tall Ones. Now, The Tall Ones is the name of your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
Now, how did you come up with that name? It's a good name.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I actually was watching some YouTube channel about movies, and they were talking about Hellraiser, and I guess one of the main characters is named the Tall One. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I'm like, that's a cool name. That's you're looking for a good, thing to put out in front of you for Bigfoot, and I'm like, that's perfect. So I just went the Tall Ones and stuck with it ever since.
Which one was he in? Because I know there's like 4 of them, right?
I think that there's probably like 20 of them by now.
Probably.
I don't honestly, I didn't really watch this series that much. I did when I was a kid, but
right.
Yeah, but that's pretty much how the name came around.
One of my first interviews was Doug Bradley, Pinhead, and there was like one of those comic stores opening in the city, and my magazine was sent down to check it out and take photographs, and then he was going to be there at the opening, so I got to interview him, and I'd been partying all night, and I had like 2 hours sleep, and it was a little small room, and I just knew that I was like 20, 27. I was just reeking of alcohol. I felt really bad, but it was an amazing interview, and the magazine went under, and that copy, the printed copy's gone. No one could find it. I really, it was just the best interview I've ever done, and I just want to frame it, but no one can find it. But anyway, so you started this YouTube channel. How long ago was that?
I'd probably say about 3-4 years ago, somewhere around there. I started getting into the whole Bigfoot investigation probably about 5 years ago. I was, I'm a business owner, 3 kids, and that's pretty much was a lot of my life. And there's a point where it's like, gosh, I kind of need a hobby. And so I was like, well, what can I do? What do I know? And I've always had a fascination with Bigfoot, the mystery of it behind it. Harry and the Hendersons is what really got me, and that just sucked me in. And then you start, I saw some stuff on Unsolved Mysteries, and you see the In Search Of, and I read it in magazines, and I was always kind of surrounded. It was always in my circle of Bigfoot. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go check out the whole Bigfoot thing. And I remember one of my first searches that I put into Google was the difference between a Bigfoot and a Sasquatch. That's where I was, with my my investigation. That was the first start, was that question right there. And I found out, and that just kind of snowballed into a mild obsession of trying to understand the mystery, to experience the mystery, and to even maybe see what is creating this mystery. And that's kind of been my goal ever since. And it's been quite the road that's been interesting, because it's been an interesting thing to navigate, because when I came into it, I thought the Bigfoot community was unified, that I thought that they worked together. I thought that there was more answers, and the evidence was solid, and everything. So when I came into it, I was really naive. When I came on YouTube, I'm like, wow, this dude's saying this dude's saying that, and which just is amazing at that point. And then you start hearing people saying, hey, that's not real. And you're like, oh, dude, you're a troll, man. You're a troll. Get out of my face, type of thing. Because nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear Santa Claus isn't real. So I started to hear that type of feedback. And the more I heard it, the more I was like, gosh, I want to be honest with myself and what I'm interpreting. And so I started to double check what these guys are saying. It's like, oh, Sasquatch, Ontario. Yeah, he was actually proven to be, that whole thing was a hoax. And you just start to learn all these, you just start to learn all these things that you thought was real, and they just ended up not being real, are being misinterpreted, are being, perceived wrong. And, that was kind of my introduction into it. And that's why, you kind of got to learn all these other things that are associated with Bigfoot, be it, ecology, mycology, what's going on with trees, and human psychology, and all these different things you have to take into account that I didn't when I first got into it. I was very naive, and I think a lot of us are, because we assume the stuff we're being told is accurate, that it's been vetted, and that we're all working together for this common goal of understanding what Bigfoot is, and get the evidence to show other people. And yeah, that was it was quite the learning curve for me, and it's since then, it's been a learning curve or a learning. It's I'm always learning in this subject. I'm never going to say I know it all or anything like that. It's just because you can. It's such a vast thing, but that's pretty much how I got into it.
So your introduction, you were projecting basically. You were thinking everybody's just like me, but that's not the case. That's what happened to me. I thought everybody was just like me out there searching for an answer, but there's so many people that the psychology of it's probably one of the biggest things. You know, people with their, and I don't know if some of them are lying intentionally. Well, obviously there's a mixture, but the stuff that some people believe, it seems like the New Age movement and the Sasquatch phenomenon for a lot of people have fused, you know, and became something else.
Yeah, since Bigfoot, there's not a lot of known about it. A lot of people are able to create whatever they want, whatever narrative they want. Bigfoot will be whatever you want it to be because nobody else can really say that it's not. And so I think that played a huge factor.
Your audio just went down there.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, I was distracted by that. So
you go in here with this attitude that, especially on the Facebook groups, that's where you see it the most blatantly, you know? I actually left a lot of Facebook groups because it got too much, the arguing and stuff and the claims people were making. You know, somebody would have like a profile picture of just like a broken stick, you know? A Bigfoot did this.
And I think they really believe that too. I think a lot of what you experience in those Facebook groups, the vast majority, they actually believe it because that's what they were told to believe by all of us, you know, or not all of us, but by what's being presented as Bigfoot evidence. And that's just really not the case. And I've left a lot of Bigfoot groups for that reason. They're just not your flavor of Bigfoot group. You just have to understand that we're all on a different journey and we're all going down different paths, all towards the same general goal. But we're all on different paths. Some people are going to try and get there through the metaphysical way, through woo, through that way. Other people are going to go try and do it through the scientific method. And, you know, there's everybody has their own different way. You know, we're all different and approach it differently. And you know, it's interesting because I actually just went to a Bigfoot conference this last weekend. It was a woo conference, and not to, you know, make fun or videotape and then post later. I'm just trying to understand people. I'm trying to understand this phenomenon that we're all experiencing subjectively in a way that you know, that's being projected out onto others. And so it's just something I'm just trying to understand, and I didn't feel that I needed to understand. And that's one of my biggest parts of my investigation right now is the human psychological aspect of it, of trying to understand us all, even me, trying to understand my journey, and because maybe my journey will help other people, because I feel it's very similar to a lot of people, you know. So if I think if there's a better understanding of how we come into this, and maybe the right mindset, and how all, you know, and understand that all the answers aren't known, that, you know, maybe we'll shorten that learning curve, so we don't have to deal with so many rabbit holes that end up wasting our time, money, and going nowhere, really.
Yeah, that's when people put these questions on Facebook. It's like, yeah, I think it was, can Bigfoot swim? And what kind of, you know, what method does he use to swim? Is it the breaststroke, or is it the crawl? Questions like this, you know, and then you had like 93 comments with people claiming that, you know, they knew how Bigfoot swam. Stuff like this, it drives me crazy. And you can usually tell in the responses how these people are, not just the grammar, but just their general demeanor of how they answer a question. Even if, but I always say, let's just figure out if he's real first, and then we'll talk about all this stuff later. That's the first question that needs to be answered first. And then you can have your fun with what he can do, you know?
Yeah, you know, that's true. I mean, I actually think I came across that post as well, and you're looking at it, it's like, wow, that's so random. Why would you ask that? And but a lot of people do, and those are people that you know, it's one of those things where you see the question, you already know what the answers are going to be like. So you should probably just scroll on by, because that's not a question you really want to waste your time with, because you know it's just going to be like you said it is. You know, it's just put in the cart before the horse type of thing. We know nothing about Bigfoot. Nobody's doing a short-term, long-term study. We know zero. I know a lot of people say they do and have, but it ultimately comes down to the evidence that's collected to present, to help validate and present what's going on with what's being claimed and stuff. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with it.
It's still fun reading the comments, though.
It is, yeah.
I'll go through them and I'll be like, some of them are hilarious, you know, and you get a few smart asses in there, you know. But
yeah, but you get a really good insight into the mindset of these people, and they're not bad people. They're not bad people at all. They just believe in something, want to believe in something, and really like all things Bigfoot. They like talking about all things Bigfoot swimming. You know, it's just something that really helps them through life, I think. And I think the more we recognize that, the less we'll get frustrated when we come across these people and these groups, because those are the times when we're just like, oh yeah, these people really aren't for me. I know I'm not going to. I know I'm probably going to be more of a nuisance than helpful, so I'll probably just leave the group or not comment.
Well, these kind of groups are more about human psychology than Bigfoot. You know, at the end of the day, you learn more about human beings than you do about Bigfoot on a Facebook Bigfoot forum. You know?
Yeah, you know, because I try to understand these people saying these stuffs in the comments and making these claims and everything. I try to understand it more, just to better understand what's going on with this whole phenomenon, because I think that that's the root of this phenomenon, is the people that are in it and the psychology that is associated with looking for something that is mysterious in the woods with little to no evidence, but a lot of people claim a lot of different things. And for me, that's one of the more interesting parts in my investigation right now, because I do a lot of boots on the ground. I mean, been doing it for years. Bushwhack, off trail, game trail, everything. I've pretty much done it for the last many years. I put tens of thousands of miles just driving logging roads at the pre-dawn or late dawn or late evening, just, you know, because you hear Bigfoot's really likes to walk in front of cars. Statistically speaking, they walk in front of cars, you know, for encounters. So I like to drive and explore, and so that's what I did. You know, just go out and look and try to find the answers that fit you and what you're searching for in this subject.
I want to get into that aspect of your investigation, but before I do, I'll tell you a funny story, because actually Joe's in here from Western New York Bigfoot, and I posted a video up, and it's me at the Quabbin Reservoir, and where I was parked, there was just an X, you know, like two trees in the shape of an X, and Joe pointed it out. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't see that before, and someone in the comments was like, that X stands for the Zanu, you know. The Zanu Bigfoot. If anybody doesn't know what that is, it's I guess that's Matthew Johnson calls them. They're a spiritual. I don't know. I don't even know where to start with that. It's a long story.
They are interdimensional light beings that are able to take a light form that's able to live within trees and exist in real form. And so Matt Johnson is an individual, with the help of a few others, creating a Tesla device to open a portal so over 200,000 illegal aliens, and this is a Trump supporter with wanting to build a wall, and yet here he is wanting to inviting all these illegal aliens in. Anyway, so yeah, 200,000 Zanu are apparently populating Earth right now and able to, I don't know, do whatever. I think do whatever Matt says they can do. He's able to create a interesting little cult behind it. And you know, honestly, when I first got into this subject, this is before the portal incident, I think, or no, this was right around the portal incident. When I first got into this subject, my introduction was Matt Johnson. I started going down the woo train because Matt was making all these claims of like, oh yeah, I'm having these interactions with Bigfoot, habituation. This is again before he wrote his books. This is like 2015, and so I'm like, oh wow, that's great. I was actually going to pay him like $1,000 just to show me a Bigfoot, because I didn't want to put in the effort to go look for Bigfoot, like through the woods. So it's like if somebody's making these claims, I was going to offer him $1,000, but the more I was
I would pay it.
I would, yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
But the more I kind of, was progressing in my Bigfoot investigation that I didn't realize I was doing at the time, but the more I was progressing into it, the more I was listening to other people, the more I started to develop the tools necessary to start realizing, oh, this dude might be full of crap. And, the evidence that he was presented is like, those red flags that you kind of ignored because you shouldn't think that they were red flags are now becoming more obvious. And but yeah, it was a funny story that my first rabbit hole was actually Matt Johnson, and it was only because Adam Davies and John Carlson were third parties. They weren't really friends with Matt Johnson, but they are the ones who discovered this portal, who talked about it, who it wasn't seen until these two individuals were there. And and if you go, it's a really interesting event that I highly encourage everybody to go investigate a lot more. And I can give you all the links to help you. But yeah, that was it was because of that. Those two is why I gave Matt. I ignored those red flags from Matt Johnson a lot more, because I thought that those two would pick up on those red flags and not allow us to go down a rabbit hole that was unvetted. And apparently it was not it wasn't vetted at all. And to the point where you really question what's come out of there, like the claims and everything. But yeah, interesting story there.
Well, his first encounter, the encounter that got him into it, I think it was a really good encounter. I don't know if it's true now, looking back at it, but that was a cool encounter when he was out with his family.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, apparently his whole family saw it, and the area that it was at was, it's not uncommon for Bigfoot to be reported at. Right. And so it could be one of those things where he might have had an original sighting and just created more from it because he realized the attention that he got from it. I mean, this is a lot to unpack with Matt Johnson, because there's a whole history and psychological aspect of it. But yeah, he was able to create his own Bigfoot narrative and control it solely and not have to worry about anybody else taking it away from him. He was successful at that.
Well, plus he recently moved house and they moved with him, right?
Well, yeah, of course. They're always going to move with you. I mean, you're not going to leave them you're not going to abandon them at somebody's house.
Wow.
Yeah, it's, it's an interesting thing because his wife really believes it as well. And there's a thing called folie à deux, which is a psychological thing that is where you'll basically, whatever one partner is doing, the other is going to mimic and whatever.
Like the Swedish twins in England. Remember those twins that ran into the
the
highway?
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Yeah, and I wonder about that if it happens with research partners too. People who go out and investigate the woods together and are research partners, if they can come down with this as well. And, that's why they unintentionally hoax themselves of sorts, of, unintentionally deceiving themselves because they validate each other without critical thinking because of that folie à deux type condition that people experience.
Yeah, and folie à deux, that's a French word for the foolish two or something like that. I can't remember how it's translated. Folly of two or something, I think it is. So anyway, on to your research. So what does your research entail? I mean, you obviously make videos on your research. That's what most of your videos are. They aren't really interviews, right?
No, I don't really do much interview. I don't know what my videos really are. I have a spectrum of, I have like investigation videos, commentary videos, highlight videos where I highlight other people doing, talking about something. It's just a menagerie of things that I do interest. It's only a small fraction of it because I try to want to do something that's entertaining for people. And I know the Bigfoot entertainment is a bad word, but you do want to entertain people, but
Yeah.
not in a deceiving way. So I try to create, something that's palatable. So someone's watching it, they can kind of experience what that event that I was going to was like, and from start to finish. And like with the last video, I think I have on there, one of the last videos, it was an overnight investigation I did with a few people in this really high potential area. And it was just kind of a menagerie of clips of our day and night, going over into the night and stuff. And because people like to see these type of environments where Bigfoot could be at, and see signs. Like I have people tell me all the time, it's like, oh, hey, if you look at this timestamp, there's a really interesting tree break there.
Yeah.
And so I have people do tell me that, and sometimes it is beneficial where it's like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that, and like it happened with this knock that I actually recorded when I was out. I was like earlier this year, late last year, and I was out with a bunch of people in this Bigfoot area, and we were all taught, and a buddy of mine was telling a story, and in the middle of the story, there was this wood knock, straight up wood knock, and I posted the video and I forgot about it, and somebody pointed it out. Hey, do you realize there's a wood knock in the episode or in this video? I'm like, oh, wow, that's great. Thanks for telling me. And I was able to do an independent video of that, which I probably wouldn't have done because I usually don't really rewatch everything second for second. And
right.
just because editing takes up a lot of time, and I don't really like doing that. I do everything on my phone, and but yeah, that's kind of what the videos are. It's what's going on in the Pacific Northwest. I try to vet stuff out, so when I do present it, it's not going to it's not going to be misleading, or I'm going to have to walk it back, which unfortunately I don't post anything that I think is Bigfoot evidence quite, because I don't really know if Bigfoot exists yet. I'm trying to get over that hump of that confirmation sighting. And I think when I do...
What percentage do you think you're at with Bigfoot? I mean, I'm at 90%. Because of all of the stories that I've heard, and I believe a lot of these people. I believe them, but still I have this 10% that I'm keeping for when I see one.
Yeah,
I don't feel like I can say 100% if I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you really can't, and a lot of people do, which could take you down a rabbit hole of something that you have to walk back because it's not it. I can tell you that if you don't see the Bigfoot making it, there's a good chance that it wasn't Bigfoot doing it, because there's a lot of different things that will create those Bigfoot evidence that we come across in the woods, be it nature, something that was done 30 years ago that you didn't realize, or hiking group or whatever. With it.
Yeah, talk about that. What you said about the tree breaks. Are the structures, you mentioned a couple of things that I hadn't thought about and I didn't realize. And you said that even a Survivor man got fooled by one of these things. Can you talk about that a little bit? What your opinion on tree breaks and tree structures?
Yeah, it was two incidents where the Survivor man was he wasn't aware, like the inverted trees with the roots sticking out of the ground.
Right.
Like Bigfoot was mad and he did that. Well, I thought that too until I actually went into various logging groups, Facebook logging groups, that has nothing to do with Bigfoot.
Oh, that's a good idea.
A very good idea. And you just type in Bigfoot, or you just observe, and you come across like that right there. It was a conversation about border markering and stuff. It was like questions that's mundane to these loggers, but for us, we were like, oh my God, Bigfoot's out here. So that was like, wow, this was great to come in here, because you learn so much by going into non-Bigfoot groups. Hiking groups is an amazing place because you can learn a lot about an area. Actually, in hiking groups, you can actually get a lot of really good Bigfoot encounters. Like when somebody in a hiking group posts about, hey, what's your craziest thing you've come across in the woods, or a Bigfoot thing, sure, you'll get people making fun of the Bigfoot stuff, but there's a lot of people that actually talk about their encounters or their crazy things, even post pictures of interesting looking prints and stuff that they come across, and audio evidence. It's like, it's an unbelievable source for Bigfoot information that I didn't even realize until you started searching around in these groups. But if you want to really understand a lot more what's going out in the woods, I highly recommend you go to these logging Facebook groups, these survivalist Facebook groups, because you'll actually come across stuff that a lot of people are calling Bigfoot, when in fact it's just common to some other community. It's just a lot of us don't have the experience to say that outright.
So the tree that was inverted with the root ball in Survivor Man, you said that's done for marking territory sometimes.
Yeah, either marking territory, borderlines, roads too. Actually, I have a video on mine. The roots aren't in it, or aren't they're not there because they were cut. But it's also used to close roads too. So I have a video of the U.S. Forest Service using a tree in strategic locations, just shoving it down in there and closing that whole road, so you guaranteed can't go back there. And that's what that's what they do. And the other one was Les Stroud came across that really big teepee structure that he found that on the onset looks like, wow, a person couldn't do this. But if you look at Leon's channel, Bigfoot Okanagan, he has a very good video called Gullible White Guy. And I highly encourage everybody to watch that. After watching this, go watch that, because that there will show you his journey into learning that those structures are actually made by Native Americans, because you're likely on Native American land, and those structures can actually exist for decades. And really? And Leon did an amazing job at showing us this, like giving us the evidence, walking us through it. And it's one of the best videos out there to educate us what is going on out in the woods that happens to not be Bigfoot related. And the more that we know about this stuff, like videos like his, the better we will be at our investigation, the less issues we'll have when presenting evidence, and the less that we'll actually have to walk back when we ended up realizing we were wrong. Because there's no evidence should ever be ambiguous. I mean, there's always an answer out there. If you have a strange sound that you can't vet out right away, I guarantee you outside of the Bigfoot community, someone knows exactly what that sound is, and it likely isn't going to be Bigfoot. And so we have to really get the right mindset in when we are going to investigate this subject, because we are going to come across a lot of times where we believe something was Bigfoot and it just ended up not being Bigfoot. But our emotional connection and holding on to that is what keeps us believing and living in denial type of thing. And that we should probably be more aware of if we really want to get to the answers and investigate this subject and a greater clarity.
Yeah, you gotta toss some stuff aside so you can get to the actual truth. Now, you said something about there was another one in Survivor Man where wasn't there one where you had like the trees and they were like really high up in the trees, and they were just like, I don't know what shape it was, but they were like 20 feet up, and he was like, wow, how did that get there? Who put that there? And you said sometimes it could be snow load, or they can even be playing a prank.
Yeah, well, yeah. The thing is, it's like if we think back, around wintertime, when those slopes usually can accumulate 30, 40 feet easily, just with slides or with just normal accumulation. You have a tree that breaks whatever up the ridge and it just slides down or whatever, it's going to weave itself in there. And when the snow melts, that's why you get them left up in the trees. But we don't take the snow into account. So if we do come across evidence like that, we should double check the snow on that particular ridge to see if it would help get that tree up there. Because honestly, Bigfoot's not going to waste its time and energy to go throw a tree up in another tree. Because I don't know, why would he do that? Just like a lot of those marker indicators that you talked about that people think Bigfoot does, I don't feel that they do, because Bigfoot's whole thing is about being elusive. So if you're going to be elusive, you're not going to give people territory markers where they're going to stop, look at, and be like, take pictures of, and really give it a lot of attention if they're observing you. So they're going to realize that, which is another reason why I think they might take their dead away, and why we don't find their dead, because why would you leave a Bigfoot laying out for us to find? It's just going to alert us that they're in the area, which is another reason why I don't think that they take people like hikers and whatnot, because again, I don't know if any of you guys been on or familiar, but when somebody goes missing, everybody and their grandma is coming to that particular area.
Choppers and dogs
choppers,
and men with guns.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Bigfoot probably realized, oh man, we're probably not going to take those people. Not to mention, Bigfoot probably really has to deal with our germs that they're not, accustomed to. And since germs wiped out most Native Americans, makes you wonder what our germs are going to do to the Bigfoot populations if we can wipe out entire clans just by leaving a simple apple for them to eat on and gift towards them, and we accidentally infect them. Actually, I just read a story or a thing about this called the Island of the Dolphin, and it was about a woman who lived on a desert island for 16 years by herself, and when she was rescued, she died 7 weeks later because of our germs. She had no immunity, and it was before we really fully understood, which makes you wonder, does Bigfoot have an immunity? If not, how often are they coming into town and interacting with our germs and bacteria?
Dumpsters and stuff.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if stuff like that's even true, because the consequences of collecting our germs and giving it to the rest of your family could easily, if they exist, I'm sure they watched that happen with the Native Americans. Maybe, I don't know. It's something to think about, though, I guess. When you're out there gifting, maybe we should wipe it down or I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good point. I never thought about that. So what do you go out, do you have your own like research group, or is it just you by yourself, solo camp? In what way do you do it?
Well, I'm kind of what you would call the lone wolf. I have a lot of people I collaborate with. I don't have a Bigfoot group or anything like that. The tall ones is the only thing that I have, but that's to help put a buffer between me and the Bigfoot community. Because I don't let a lot of people know that I'm into the Bigfoot stuff. Even my family doesn't really know. My girlfriend doesn't even really know. She does, but she doesn't know the extent. But
the extent of it.
Yeah, it's just I like to keep those things to myself, because I don't like to get other people involved until I have more answers, until I have a better understanding of what's really going on. Because I did that once, got my family involved, and be like, oh my, when I first got into the Bigfoot community, I was on my Facebook page, I was like posting all these really cool, what I thought at the time was Bigfoot evidence, and only to find out, nope, got to delete that one now and walk that one back, and which it's a process for us all.
Yeah, I've deleted a few things.
Yeah, it's part of the investigation, our journey into the Bigfoot phenomenon. Now, a lot of people won't ever take the next step to find out if it's real or not. They just want to accept it as being real, and that's all that they want, and which is fine. Those people are probably not going to be on your friend list anyways.
Yeah, and they'll just sit on Facebook and post sticks and ask stupid questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get into your experience with the tree. This story fascinates me, and I really wanted to ask you about this. I know you've told it so many times, probably. Now, I do have some media, and I'm just going to bring that up so that it's ready. So when you're talking about it, I can bring it right up in the background. So yeah, there we go. It's right there. So do you want to just get into the whole story with the tree and when it started? And I don't know if you can name names. If you don't want to name names, that's fine. But how all that started and how that wasn't that what one of the things that changed your perspective in Bigfoot? Was that the sole event that changed the way you look at this subject?
Yeah, it gave me the most insight on what's actually going on with the phenomenon here. So it all started around 2017. Somebody that I knew sent me a message saying, "Hey, there's a person that has this amazing experience, or that they claim, up in the North Cascades, of a Bigfoot living underneath this tree, and it's this big berm too. It's like this big berm with a tree on it, or it's called a marriage tree, where it's joined at the bottom and then goes up like that. It's like 150, 200 years old, and so I started doing a little bit of research to figure out if it was really kind of worth looking into. And then I was like, oh, it sounds interesting. So I messaged the person, met them. They eventually took me up there to show me the whole Bigfoot underneath the tree. And so we went there. It just seems like the most unusual place for Bigfoot to be hanging out, but which is a red flag. But I kind of ignored it and whatever. And so she took me to this tree and said, yeah, if I sit here and talk for a short amount of time, he'll start thumping and communicating from underneath the ground, because there's a tunnel system underneath there. And this is one of many chambers that was the theory going on. And these tunnels went to all these other, what looks like berms, looks like a bear den underneath there, I was assuming. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So we start talking and just having a random talk about whatever, I don't know. And then all of a sudden there's this light tapping underneath the ground, and she's like, yeah, that's him. And so, it just started progressively getting louder and louder and different things. And then we got up and kind of walked around the area, and then it made but at the time sounded like a growl, a straight up. Actually, I still have that. Forgot to send that one to you. That would have been a good one. But it sounded like a growl, like straight up a growl. And I'm like, ooh. And she's like, oh, we got to get out of here. And I'm like, are you sure? It's kind of why we're here, type of thing. And so, yeah, we ended up leaving. And that was my introduction into the Bigfoot tree. And from there, I was hooked. And it was quite the experience. I did what I could to try to investigate the tree, but the person that was associated with it was more interested in having a movie made about her life and having documentaries made, and she was trying to get a TV show about herself, so that actually took up a lot of the time. We couldn't even really. Any time that we spent there, it was only really short. It was only, a few minutes. You get like a little taste of it, and then you got to go because she was afraid. And so what you're seeing right here is actually the main cause of everything. I wanted, all I really cared about was seeing the Bigfoot, trying to help her get this Bigfoot out from underneath the ground. And so that was my goal. Her goal was not that. So we had a conflict and a falling out. And when we had that falling out, that's when we kind of separated, and she kind of progressed. I mean, she was working on getting a tour business going out there. She bought property out there and had and was going to open up a gift shop all up in that area there. And then I couldn't go back, even though it's a public area. I couldn't go back because I was told I couldn't go back because that's the Bigfooting way. It's, even though it's a public land, it's someone's research area. So right. For most of 2008, because we had our falling out in late 2017, early 2018, and then a lot of it, the area is inaccessible because it's so deep in the Cascades and there's so much snow. The road is closed. And so, I didn't go back there for a long time because she had trail cam set up there, watching whoever came to this particular area. Again, it's public land. It's actually in a campground, a federally owned campground that anybody can go in. But and then I started talking to people, and I started to realize, I can go back. And so me and my buddy Cosmo, he's in all my videos, and so we went back to that.
Sorry, Brent, this is tree right here in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, if you look up to the right there, you see how that tree has that split down the middle, that white thing down the middle. That's
Yeah.
actually two trees that are joined at the bottom. So
All right.
this is off the main road at the Marble Creek campground, and it's probably about a couple hundred yards from the main gate area, maybe 100 yards, and it continues another 300 yards or so to the main campground area. So this area is just kind of strategically placed right there in the middle. And so me and a buddy went back there looking for a cave entrance, and I didn't like going back to the tree because I knew how watched it was. Even when I knew Lori and stuff, I I didn't like going back there because I always felt I was on somebody's recorders, somebody's. Because one of the first times I went there, I found a trail cam, somebody else's trail cam that she took, that she didn't know whose it was, but they're trying to collect evidence. And she's like, "Oh, these guys are trying to take my evidence or take my research and steal it and blah blah blah." And so I didn't like going back to the tree at all because of that. She liked to create drama online to keep people from going there. She
So
would
she only wanted to be. You couldn't go there unless you were with her.
exactly, yeah, and she was very adamant about that to the point that she had trail cams set up there, where if somebody was caught going back there, she would go online and say, "These people are stealing my research, destroying my evidence," and which happened to me. She did that to me. I was actually the fifth or sixth person that she did that to me or did that to. Uh, and which is one of the reasons why I actually spoke up about it, because that type of behavior isn't
Right.
acceptable on any level, especially in the Bigfoot community. And so, yeah, um, I eventually, me and my buddy, we went there. It's funny because my whole thing was looking for a cave entrance. That's all I really kind of cared about. I was like, where the hell is this cave entrance?
Hmm.
And, I originally started from the tree when I first started helping her, started looking from the tree and slowly work your way back and stuff. And when me and my buddy went there summer 2018, that was our goal. And we literally ended up like a quarter mile away across this other creek, just trying to find this entrance. Cause it's like, God, it has to be somewhere. And then, and then I was talking to this guy, Stephen Stroyford. He runs Coalition of Critical Thinking. He owns Bigfoot books.
Oh yeah.
He gets a bad rap, but if you talk to people in private and stuff, you get a better sense of who they are. That group there gets trolled a lot by people. A lot of people always trying to do shenanigans in there, so a lot of people are jaded and burned out and whatever. But anyway, so I was talking to him in private just about the whole thing, the investigation, kind of what I wanted to do, what my goals were and stuff. And one of the messages he straight out told me, he's like, dude, just don't try and prove what's out there. Just go try and find out what's out there or what's underneath there. And for some reason, I just, out of everything anybody's ever said to me about Bigfoot or whatever, that line is what resonated the most for me. And so it just stuck with me. And it was like a little seed he planted in me that just kind of grew and grew, especially when you're driving out there. It's a 2-hour drive. It's like, gosh, how am I going to really go about this? It's like, well, I wanted to do this, but in reality, I should just restart my investigation into this Bigfoot tree and start from scratch. And let's do this, a way that I think is going to help me find out what is going on. Because I was thinking about it, if I'm trying to prove what's underneath there, I'm still going along with the hypothesis of what everybody else is claiming, which could derail my investigation because I'm trying to build upon what other people's information they're claiming about this.
Hmm.
And that there is like, will actually derail an investigation, believe it or not. And I thought, man, that really would derail. So I went in there with the mindset of just trying to find out. I walked up to the tree, not how I would have normally, of given the attention of something that's underneath there, trying to bring it out, so to speak.
This was you were by yourself this time.
I was by myself this time, and so I didn't do that rapport that I would have done, which would have kept me in the mindset of trying to prove what everybody else was claiming about the tree. So instead, I went with the mindset of finding out, which completely cleared my mind of all biases, to the point when I went there, I figured out, within the first hour or so, the process of what was going on, which at that time, when I realized it, when it really truly hit me that there is no Bigfoot going on underneath there, the blood left my body. You know, it was like it was such it was an intense moment where the blood drains from your body. It's like, whoa, you're just so shocked. And I was very confused. I didn't know what to really think. I didn't really expect to come to such an obvious conclusion so quick. And so from, just actually, I think the video that I got of the treetops, that video.
Do you want me to bring it up?
Yeah, you can go ahead and play that. That I was sitting in my car, and that video was from me reflecting of, oh my God, I was wrong. There's no Bigfoot underneath there. This is what's going on. And I was filming the treetops just to get that evidence, because it was
hold on. Can you hear the audio?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So this is you looking up?
Yeah, I'm just filming, looking up, and you can hear the tapping and everything as the wind blows. Now, taking into account this tree is likely hollow, so the sound goes underneath the tree and will shake the roots and vibrate.
Ah.
And everybody's focus is always underneath the ground, because that's where the sound is coming from. That's where it'll shake. You can actually feel the vibration and see the dirt move on the bottom of your feet when the tree is truly singing as it is. Like what you just heard right there, that underneath the tree, it sounds like something is growling at you. Right there.
Right there.
Yeah, underneath there.
And it was just these trees moving on top that was causing that?
Yeah, so that first picture that you put up, that branch, if you pull that branch up.
Okay, 1 second. The branch, was that the very first one?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can bring that up. That one?
That's the one. That is the Bigfoot. Now, take into account, this tree has had a big investigation into it. I call it Bigfooting's biggest blunder. Close to probably $50,000 to $100,000 has been spent on trying to figure out what's causing, or trying to better understand the Bigfoot underneath the tree. But all the time, it was this branch right here. When the wind blows, this branch gets pulled, and as it maneuvers in there, it still has this little nubbies in there, and so it just creates, it's like a songboard that it creates all these different sounds, and depending upon the movement of the tree, so the wind has a factor on how it's going to sound. It's the most unique tree I've ever seen, that anybody's ever taken there has ever seen, because of what it's able to produce, the different sounds. But this is what's causing all the sounds, and the sound and that vibration shoots straight down to underneath the tree to this big berm that again, this is where the sound kind of projects from. But at times, if you're looking up in certain areas, you can actually hear the sound almost travel straight down to the tree, which is how I figured it out. I was listening to that, and it was like I was in the right spot at the right time. I was like, oh, dang. But,
so you're standing there and you're looking around for the answer to what's causing this, and you look up and you see this tree knocking against it.
Yeah. Well, once you, because I was by the tree, and once I heard like the sound migrating down, that's when you start, because you can't see this branch you have to actually go from the tree in certain areas to see this actually branch. So you can't see it from underneath when you're standing at the base of the ground. Right. So once I started getting into a different location, you got a better sense of kind of what was going on. Now, I also have to put out there that I'm not the one who initially discovered this. The person who came with this information, because Brian Sykes was actually involved with this. He did Professor Brian Sykes. He was he recently passed away, but he was really big. He was one of the go-to guys for DNA study, doing DNA. He had a secret project going on at this location, trying to collect DNA samples, and he actually came to the United States and had his whole, when he came to the United States to go do his DNA study to try and prove that Bigfoot exists. Well, he actually had a side study going on at the same exact time at this location, because he was taken here, and he believed it. He had those experiences and left and continued on his tour of the West Coast to meet other Bigfooters while telling everybody Bigfoot exists. He had a Bigfoot experience underneath this tree up in the North Cascades. So he actually believed it, doing a independent study. This is why so much money started to get invested into this particular area, is all these other people, especially coming from overseas, like Adam Davies was involved. He's one of the big proponents of it. And so one of the times that Adam and the lady who originally had the whole Bigfoot underneath the tree, Lori Simmons, you know, they were there with Brian Sykes, and they had the Bigfoot experience, and everybody left because everybody was afraid. And Lori and Adam at that time were getting married, so they left off together while Brian Sykes was driving home by himself to the airport. And then he started to think to himself, he's like, why am I driving away? I have a Bigfoot underneath a tree right here. Why am I driving away? And because that's kind of, you go along with what's being presented. You stay there, get scared, then you leave. Everybody leaves. Don't go back by yourself. So Adam instead, or Brian Sykes instead, stopped at the local ranger station and said, hey, can you guys come check out this interesting tree? And one of the guys like, yeah, after work, I'll come check it out. So Brian Sykes met this individual, a forest ranger named Sage Boehm, that met Brian Sykes at the tree. Brian told him what everybody was thinking, what everybody was saying about the tree. And so this guy's like, okay, let me check it out. So he circles a tree, and he gets his binoculars out, and he's looking up there, and he's like, all right, so this is kind of what's going on with the tree, and totally lays it out for Brian Sykes. And Brian at that point is just like,
wow,
believed it. He was like, wow, that sucks, because he fully believes what this individual is telling him. There's no Bigfoot underneath there. He was sitting there showing him the whole process and what's going on. And so that was like 2014 or so. And so Brian left the United States, went back, wrote his book. And by this time it was like 2015 or whatever, 16, and wrote his book and put in like 2 sentences or a paragraph or whatever about his experience with the tree, of how he figured it out, of taking this other guy back there and this guy basically doing what I just explained. So I can't take credit for solving this. He gets the credit. But unfortunately, that information wasn't widely circulated or available. I mean, you go look on that on like Amazon, that book is like $65 to buy. You know, it's apparently not a lot of people bought it, and it's not in circulation. And that information that he discovered, since he was so passive about it, nobody picked up on. And by that time, Adam Davies was a big proponent of it. And by that time is when, right after that, is when Adam Davies had that experience with the portal with Matt Johnson, where he had that, where he saw that portal. And I think that overshadowed the tree and any sort of future investigation, because all focus was on that right there. I didn't even know he was associated with the tree until I started talking to Lori and stuff early on, like on the first few conversations with her. But I feel that's why the tree kind of got pushed down, and nobody really knew. And in fact, Adam Davies went with Russ Accord, Expedition Bigfoot, and a couple other people. They went there to the tree, to the campground, and stayed there for a week trying to solve it. That was actually like a couple of weeks prior to me first going there. So it was actually probably their trail cam that we found that she took was from their expedition, because there's a blog post which we could post in the comment section of this so other people could read. But it's a blog post of one of the individuals that was on that investigation, and he talks about the investigation, the gear that they had, and the experiences that they had. And he also goes into, because from that they also went into to the Matt Johnson portal incident that they had. But so a lot of people were involved with it, to the point where I was surprised that that information wasn't more widely circulated about Brian's findings. But I guess just a lot of people didn't buy his book, and people mostly forgot about it until I came along, I guess.
So did you know about his conclusions?
I still don't know what, like Adam Davies. I talked to him privately and stuff, and
No, I mean the guy from England. Did you know what he had written about it?
Oh yeah, no, he actually written about it in his book. It was only like a paragraph or so, talking about how he found out that it was actually a tree. Now, I didn't find out about that until after, because as soon as I found out that the Bigfoot tree, there was no Bigfoot underneath there, I was like really kind of sad. I was like, I believe this, and now it's gone. It's like somebody took Santa Claus away from me again.
Yeah.
And so it was a long 2-hour drive back. It was just dead silence. And I'm trying to process this, everything I'm trying to process. And because it's just so, what do I do with this? Do I keep going on with the charade? Do I tell people, you just, so many different things go through your mind. And I got back, I was talking to Steven Stroifer. I'm like, dude, there's no Bigfoot underneath there. And we talk about it, and then like a day or two later, whenever, he sent me a screenshot of what Brian Sykes wrote in that book, and it's exactly what I found. Basically, I was able to verify what Brian Sykes was presenting in that book. I'm able to 100% verify it, but to give credit where credit's due, that's where it first came out that there was no Bigfoot underneath there. I was just the one who went there and verified it. I'm fortunate that I had the opportunity to go figure that out for myself, because I think that was really important, versus me being told, hey dude, go out there and look, there's a branch up here, here's the passage in his book, go verify it for us. Because I had so much more experience and insight into the whole process, the whole Bigfooting process, by going through that journey of self-discovery, of figuring out that it was the branch. And so I feel incredibly fortunate that I had that opportunity, and that I wasn't told to just go verify that it was what was already known. So
and obviously Stroiford had this information because he owns a bookshop, and that's what he specializes in, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if he had or has this book, or if somebody sent it to him, or if he knew, because he never told me, hey man, Brian Sykes is writing about it and wrote about it in his book. Here's the thing. He never told me that. So I don't know if I never actually asked him. I don't know if he wanted to see if I could figure it out myself, and give me that opportunity, and allow me for that growth, versus just, having to go be an errand boy. I've actually never asked him about that, and about it.
Huh, that's interesting as hell. That's a great story.
Is, yeah. It gave me the most insight, because that really helped my learning curve of what's going on, the psychological aspect of this. And that's what started me down that road as well, which I think is equally important to my road investigating the Bigfoot phenomenon, boots on the ground, is trying to investigate and understand the people in this subject as well, only to better protect myself from going down the wrong rabbit hole, wasting time, wasting money, wasting, having to walk stuff back, looking stupid, embarrassed. And that gave me the most insight. And it's something I think that we should both, all of us should really incorporate with our investigation, is the boots on the ground evidence, and also the stuff that these people are presenting, because man, there's just so much bad information out there, misinformation, that it's sad. And when it comes to what I think is credible, I put at a low, you have a belief of 90% of Bigfoot being real. Mine's much lower, mainly because of all the disappointments I've come across of people being wrong, inaccurate, unintentionally self-hoaxing themselves, like that thing that we're talking about with the research partners. Can they get that fully do together? There's just it's more than just going out to the woods and looking for something in the wood, or going out looking for Bigfoot. There's so many more aspects we have to take into account if we want to have a healthy, valuable investigation, one that's on a clear path, one that's not being fed, a bad narrative of something that's not even right. Look at all the people who believe Matt Johnson, and so it's it's just one of those things.
Now, what about your own encounters? How many encounters have you had, and what kind of encounters have you had?
Well, I have not seen Bigfoot. I do not know if Bigfoot truly exists. And my perspective is of that. I might have seen Bigfoot twice, and I've had a lot of experiences that most everybody would say is Bigfoot related. And so I've had a lot of different things like that, but nothing I can tell you, say, hey, I had a Bigfoot experience. I've had things that might be, but I'm not going to go there, because if I start going down and giving that, by not validating it before, seeing it, because you got to really kind of see it. Like we're talking about with the noises, is you should really see what's making it before you really make up your mind. So for me, I want to make up my mind on every piece of the evidence. So for me, none of that is Bigfoot related until I could see them doing it or somehow link it more towards it, because I feel that if I don't, I'm going to start creating these stories of what I think is happening out there, which happens a lot, a whole lot actually. And that's when we can unintentionally hoax ourselves and create bad evidence, because we go out there with that mindset. So for me, that's why probably one reason why I can go out there by myself and not be afraid of Bigfoot like coming out of that bush and killing me, because I go in with the mindset that, yeah, they're not real. I still have a long way to prove it to myself. But as far as like potential events that I've had, there was a time when I found this interesting print, which is likely a bear double print, but I was at this area a lot. It's well known for Bigfoot. And so I did this whoop or the scream or something, this early 2017. And I see something. It was probably about 75 yards away. And I see something stand up and start walking away. But it's behind clusters of trees, like we have a ton of alder trees here. So they just grow really fast and they can grow clusters together. So I saw something stand up and start walking past these trees. And I saw, how you walk and you can get this little area right here, when your arms are swinging. Right. I saw that. So I'm like, oh, wow, what's that? So I knew the geographic location of where I was at. So I knew the river was on the backside of it. So, and I was up on this ridge and it was kind of down there. So what I did is I chased after it up on the ridge, because I knew if I can get over there fast enough, I can actually cut off with whatever that was. And so I start going as fast as I can over there, and I can't get very far because it just gets so dense and so thick, and then it's impassable. So I was able to figure out and find a way down there. And with the terrain and stuff, you can't really find prints or anything like that. And I couldn't find any evidence of Bigfoot or whatever. And so I didn't get enough information for me to say, hey, that was this or that. So it's just really kind of an inconclusive experience that I had. Another one was I was at this other area. It's well known for Bigfoot, and so I was up on this log, and I was like scanning this tree line, and I was just like looking, and it was getting towards dawn or dusk, and I see this, and it looks like a face looking right back at me, sticking through the trees, right? I'm staring at it, and it's staring at me, and it's probably, I don't know, 20 yards or so away. And it's just like, wow, that looks like a face, like a Bigfoot face looking at me. Very similar to that Todd Standing puppet face, the
Right.
light skinned one. I was like, wow, that's weird. And I even had my phone in my hand. I'm like, no way, that's, it's pareidolia. And so I told myself, I'm going to look away and I'm going to look back and I'm going to find it again. So I looked away and looked back and I couldn't find that exact pareidolia match in that particular area. Not saying it was Bigfoot or whatever, but that was an interesting experience. It could have been an owl for all I know. That was just like, hey, what's this dude doing? But one of my favorite things that happened, I was with a buddy of mine, a few people that I was actually out with, and I took him to this area because I go to this area and you go to areas and you start getting more interesting stuff happening. Like, huh? So I would open my door and I would get a single clear as day wood knock right as soon as I opened my door. So that happened like a few times, and so I'm like, oh, bring some more people back, and so I brought more people back, and we're out there. I'm like, yeah, that's where I have where I had that tree knock experience. Can't say what it is, but hey, they wanted me to. They asked me if I could just take some people out that were coming into town to go to Bigfoot areas. I'm like, yeah, we'll go here. So anyway, so we get back there, and it's me and 3 other people, and so I do this wood knock, and then all of a sudden, like back in the area, I don't know how far back, we hear this wood knock in response, and so back and forth there was 4 wood knocks, 4 of us, and that was it. There was no other wood knocks, no other sounds or anything from that experience. I didn't record it. A buddy of mine recorded it. But me and another buddy went back there to go try and investigate some more. It's like, hey, you're having all these experiences out here. Could be Bigfoot, so let's go check it out some more. So we go back there and we start getting this thing that is shadowing us in the forest. I actually have it all on video. This whole event was all on video like a year or 2 ago. And it's just there shadowing us. We never see what it is. And we try to, me and my buddy, we split up to try and like trap it or whatever, just
I'll put the link up on this video as you're talking about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And so we try to like cut it off, just try to expose it. And it just takes off in the woods. And we go try to follow the path, of where it was probably going. But here in the Pacific Northwest, we have it's so much rain that we have like carpet moss. It's literally like moss, and you can step on it and it's going to regain its form shortly thereafter. And so we didn't have any real luck or success trying to find what was shadowing us. Could have been a bear, sure, but it was in the same location where we had those where I had those wood knock experiences with all those other people. And we come across a lot of impressions. We don't really have the ground, the soil for the fine prints or whatnot, but come across a lot of impressions. Could be tree breaks, some interesting tree break stuff that makes you wonder, like, wow, that's weird. And actually, we came across a whole ridge line full of these that are like, have a video of that too, like 2-3 years ago, of just like, wow, that's weird. Like, very unusual, very high interest stuff of, I don't know. So I was talking to Shane Corson about it a while ago about that, and he has a hypothesis. Good guy you should have on, Shane Corson, Olympic Project. But he has this hypothesis of them using the ridge tops, and he has all these similar type of breaks of pointing a certain area, and these here happen to point towards a berry patch. It's like a massive expanse of berry patch. Not that it's linked, but that's just what it is. It was in that area. But I don't know about that stuff. I mean, I don't know if Bigfoot did that. It's like, I don't know what else did that. My first thing will go towards wind, or something fell over and knocked that to break the tree. Those are my first 2. My third one is an animal climbing up it, be it a raccoon, baby bear, of whatever, and it just starts to bow over and it just snaps and breaks. Those are my top 3 for not being Bigfoot related. And when you can cross those out, that's when you're like, what's kind of going on here? And it's just interesting stuff like that I'd love to say is Bigfoot related. I hope to see one, so hopefully I can link that all to being Bigfoot. I just have all these puzzle pieces of, I don't know if they're going to fit or not. I hope they do, and I hope that I can see the puzzle when it's fully finished. Until then, I just try to go out, do the best I can. I noticed that my journey into this subject is similar to a lot of other people's, like a lot. We're coming into this naive and not knowing what we should know. And so I try to, help tell my story, talk to other people about it, and help them progress in their investigation. So, it would help their learning curve, because we couldn't have discussions like this a few years ago, even. And because it was so taboo, you were called a troll even more back then, because these type of conversations were just rejected. And for some reason, I think since the finding Bigfoot has worn off, that whole giddiness behind the Bigfoot subject, and we're now picking up the pieces of the reality of it. I think that we're in that point right now. We're all picking up the pieces. Some of us might have already articulated the pieces. That's why I highly recommend everybody go check out the Gullible White Guy on Bigfoot Okanagan's YouTube channel. That there is again a beautiful video of his journey and progression of thinking something was one thing and it's being something else. Those I think are very valuable to us. That type of information, understanding, like Leon, he put himself out there to be vulnerable, to say, hey, I was wrong. And that's really rare in this subject. People don't ever say that. And so I appreciate that he did that, and that he was able to do that video, because when I watched that video, it was another one of those things that really helped me along on becoming a better investigator and having a better perspective investigating this phenomenon. It's little things like that. It was the tree. It was a video like that. All these different things of good information from all of us. Because we all have our different way of presenting it, but a lot of us, especially in this circle of people that are being collected, with like Steve and Steve again, and just all these people who and JC, and I think that Sean, and so many people that I am very happy for the Bigfoot community right now, because I think some really good people are coming together to help us better understand this phenomenon that we're all dealing with, and we all present it and are able to articulate it and offer it up in a different way. And all I ask is that we be open to what all of us and these other people say, because I think that they can help you in your own investigation and become a better investigator, not having to walk things back, not getting emotionally attached to evidence you think is Bigfoot, and you're going to protect, with a tooth and nail type of thing, because that's another big issue that we have, is we protect what we think is Bigfoot. We protect these investigators that we think are legit, not ever asking ourselves, should we be? And that's something that is an awareness that is now becoming more apparent. And again, I think it's because of all that giddiness is worn off of, because the expedition Bigfoot didn't make that impact, but finding Bigfoot really did a lot of bad in some ways, of allowing people to be created because they were interested in the Bigfoot phenomenon, and those people became influencers, and those influencers have been influencing how this subject is being presented and articulated, and evidence is presented and stuff, and they're losing their reign now, because people are being able to see through it now, that those rose-colored glasses are off. And when you're able to see things, it's like that movie They Live, with Roddy Piper. You put on the glasses. Oh, you gotta watch it. You put on the glasses and you see through all the bull. And that's what my goal is, to try and help people develop the tools to wear those glasses, so when they're investigating this phenomenon on their own, they won't have to have somebody tell them what is Bigfoot evidence, what isn't Bigfoot evidence. They will be able to articulate it themselves. And I hope those people are the ones that are going to make the progress and get the evidence, and so we all can see, because their success is our success, because ultimately all of our goal is to know they exist or prove to others that they exist. And so we're actually all on the same team. It's just we have different ways of going about it, and some people with different beliefs altogether.
And it's interesting, if you go on to Okanagan, is it? His latest video is, I think it's like 10 videos that we thought were Bigfoot, but turned out to be hoaxes or something like that. And there's the one where the Bigfoot's chasing the car. And I don't know if he explains why it was a hoax, or does he back it up, but he just shows different videos that were proven hoaxes. And then you just got to, I guess, do the investigation yourself to find out why. But yeah, he has about 10 different videos on there.
Yeah, well, that there is a video. It's an exercise for people. It's an exercise for us to understand that these are fake. They are confirmed fake. If you trust Leon and the way he goes about his investigation, you can trust that they're fake. And I agree with him. Everybody agrees with them. They're fake. So that's not in dispute. What he wants you to do is go find out why they're fake. And in that discovery, you are in fact going to be bettering your own investigation. So it's actually an exercise it's an interactive exercise that I think a lot of people might have missed on, but it's an exercise that I think is a tool that can help us better our investigation. And that's just a really good example right there. But he wants people to go figure out for themselves why they're fake. And in that in that investigation, true discovery, self-discovery is going to be found.
It's funny, because when I first got into this on Facebook, like yourself, you're sharing stuff. I was, getting angry with my friends and stuff back home, and like, Bigfoot's real, look at all these people. And then after a while, I started thinking, hold on a second, they're right. Why should they believe in Bigfoot? Especially if you're not looking into it. It seems ridiculous, unless you talk to people that have had these experiences. But if you haven't sat down with people like Joe and people like Dave Wilbanks and stuff, and sat and talked to them, and you don't know these people, there's nothing else really to go on but people's stories. So that's why, that's why I believe, for the most part. But my friends and stuff, I even stopped posting stuff about Bigfoot, because it's like, there's nothing really to say. I can't really show them anything unless they're going to get into the subject themselves and do their own investigation. It's pointless,
Yeah, see, I was in that part of my investigation where I just started to not try to show my friends and family, because in the reality, you just start to realize that you're showing them nothing. It's something that you might have to, if you're honest with yourself, you do walk back and be like, oh yeah, this isn't real.
Or they're not interested.
Yeah, or they're not interested, and rightfully so. They have every right, because I agree with them. We don't have enough evidence to make it interesting for the non-public or the non-Bigfooters, non-Bigfooting crowd out there. It's not enough. Now, there's a lot of evidence out there, but again, like Leon's video, if you start investigating it from a non-biased perspective, because believe it or not, I feel a lot of us come into this subject with biases, and I think that a lot of us still have biases to the point where it's derailing our investigation. And it's all about approaching it, trying to find out what's going on and not to prove what's going on. And I feel a lot of people are trying to prove what's going on out there and not trying to find out what's going on. So it's a people are just kind of going down a longer road of but they don't know about these different roads, because nobody's really talked about it. And nobody, like, I feel that your journey into the Bigfoot phenomenon is very similar to mine. Almost like I had to do the same, very similar stuff that you had to do. I had to do too. And I feel a lot of us are like that, because we came into this thinking it was the Bigfoot community and the Bigfoot subject had its shit together, when it doesn't.
Had the answers.
yeah, they're so fractured and so, out there that, wow, if I knew that coming into this, I would have probably not gone down so many different rabbit holes, and which is again why I kind of talk about it. I can't bring people and tell people how to go find Bigfoot. I could tell them what's not Bigfoot related type of things, so they don't have to waste their time. That's what my real gift is, I guess, is uh, you know, helping people understand what's not related to Bigfoot, because
Yeah.
nobody can really say what is. Uh, a lot of people can say what it is. A lot of people do say what is related to Bigfoot, but nobody can bring the evidence to back that up. And it's not that we don't believe those people. It's just we're in a subject where a lot of people say a lot of different stuff and don't back it up, and is taken as face value to the point where it's repeated, and this whole thing is created from it.
Hmm. Well, after the show, I just want you to hang on for a second because I want to get those links off you. But thanks very much for coming on,
Yeah.
Brent. That was very interesting. I hope everyone agrees. That was a lot of stuff that I hadn't heard before. That was why I wanted you on, because I'd heard you on Joe from Western New York, Bigfoot, and I'm like, oh, I gotta have him on because he thinks the same way as I do, and you're just further along the path.
Yeah, I
So,
think, yeah, I'm just probably, had a little bit more experiences of dealing with the people, the phenomenon itself, and in some ways I'm able to articulate it for people to hopefully learn from, and not make the same mistakes, and go out there and find Bigfoot for us, because he's out there waiting for us to find. It's just, we got
yeah.
to have the right mindset, the right tools to look between the layers of nature so we can see them. And I think that we're so blinded that we're not doing that.
Yeah, well, this is a shortcut. That's what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
providing.
yeah, and not just myself, but this whole movement of sorts, this whole anti-giddiness, this of all these discussions that not only me are having, but other people, and like Leon and stuff. It's coming, and I
Yeah,
think that this is a really good thing for us all, and I'm very excited for everybody, because I think the best is yet to come.
awesome. I'm gonna land on that note. Thanks very much for listening, guys, and I'll talk to you all later.